So I've installed several of these Ecobee thermostats now in various locations, and I'm going to do a quick review of what is available and why I like this thermostat and why I don't, and things to be prepared for. So about 4 years ago, in our upstairs, I originally installed an Ecobee 3 to see how good these units are. I had previously installed a Nest thermostat in a rental property, and it didn't really meet the expectations that I had for it. Now, that's not necessarily a knock on Nest because they have improved their thermostats to be competitive with the Ecobee, but I'm going to go over what I have experienced in 3 different Ecobees in 3 different locations. First, I installed one of these Ecobees upstairs, and that was the Ecobee 3, and it doesn't have the voice activation, but you can connect it to Alexa and use an Alexa device to control it. You can see there, this second one I installed is a version 4. The one I installed originally was an Ecobee 3.
I don't know that.
This version 4 has a voice capability and a speaker, so you can play Pandora, Spotify right through the speaker here, and you can connect it. It uses a Alexa device directly, so you don't need a separate Alexa device. The Ecobee 4, other than that, didn't have many other features. So that's the big difference, is that has its own speaker, and it has a microphone that you can activate Alexa devices through the Ecobee system. So if I want to turn a light on, I can use this particular device, whereas the Ecobee 3 upstairs, I have to use a separate device. So the Ecobee 3 does not have the voice control. So that was a good step up for the Ecobee 4 device. You can also deactivate or reduce the sensitivity of the voice capability. You do get the sense that the Ecobee and Alexa is constantly listening to you. So if you want everything to be private and completely private, then you need to deactivate the voice settings on the Ecobee 4. Now, in this case, you can see there was a rectangular Honeywell thermostat here, and we just installed it over. There is a plate you can get, but it would not have covered the entire unpainted area. It would only go to about here if I used the plate that came with it. What really needs to be done is this needs to be temporarily removed, and then this needs to be repaired and repainted to match. Because this is a big wall, there's the possibility that the paint won't match exactly, so you risk that you would have to paint the whole wall in replacing the thermostat. Just something to consider. We've had it like this for several years, and I've not ever painted the wall. One more thing, I installed the new Ecobee Premium, which is a version of the Ecobee 4. Some of the upgrades it has the voice control just like the Ecobee 4, but what they've added is an air quality feature on the Ecobee Premium. Now, that's installed in a remote location, and it has the ability to do the contaminants in the air, and it also has a CO2 sensor. We found that the CO2 sensor was not accurate, so we had to deactivate it and turn it off. Now that cannot be done through the computer. It has to be done at the unit. All of these have ability to set a code, so you can restrict access to the thermostat or changing the values on the thermostat. You can also restrict the temperature setting, a ceiling and a floor, if you don't want people to change it higher than a certain temperature. That's a great feature. In the remote thermostat premium, which is their most recent version of the Ecobee, that has the voice control and the air quality sensors. I found the air quality sensors to be inaccurate, and because when it sets off the sensor, it puts a warning right on the screen here. It started to concern people that there was a high CO2 reading in the house, like an Airbnb or short-term rental, that they were concerned about being in the house. And we found that there was no faulty CO2, no high CO2 in the house. So in order to prevent the constant fear by tenants, we had to deactivate that sensor. It could be that they just had too many people in the house and that was setting off the sensor. However, that's hard to believe because we had the house checked and at the time there was not too many people in the house. Now that's easy to hide. You just remove people from the house when when it is checked. But we had a tendency to believe that the sensor was being set off for no reason. This was a house that had no gas fuel, no combustible fuel in the house. It sits above, off of the ground, so there's no reason why CO2 would be coming into the house from the ground. If you know of any other reasons why CO2 might be entering the house, again, there's no furnace. It was a heat pump with supplemental heat being electric heat. That wasn't even coming on because it was in the summer. And there was no reasonable explanation for why the CO2 sensor was coming on. This frightened people. They were refusing to go into the house, and there was no real danger to them. So we ended up deactivating the sensor and just let it run as basically a version 4 of the Ecobee thermostat. Now, I know this is a long-winded explanation. So the biggest, I'll say the biggest problem that we've had with the Ecobee thermostats are twofold. Well, onefold. The biggest problem we've had is that once you install them in time, because you have to directly power them through the transformer on the furnace or air handler, because that happens. Excuse my dog barking in the background. Because that happens, the transformers in the units tend to die faster, and then they start losing power. We've had this happen to the Ecobee 3 upstairs. It started first, periodically shutting off and going dark, and then the premium, which is brand new, on a 10-year-old air handler, caused the thermostat caused the transformer to die, and started doing the same thing where it was intermittently shutting off and on. So by replacing the transformer on both of those units, one was a gas furnace and one was an air handler, that at least for the short term has solved the intermittent power issues. So if you have intermittent power issues with your Ecobee, that's likely what the problem is. We've had that happen on 2 units in about the same amount of time, a year or two difference. And upgrading or just replacing the transformer, the low voltage transformer on both air handler and furnace has seemed to solve the problem. We haven't had any intermittent power issues since we took those measures. On the plus side, the best feature of the Ecobee thermostats is, and they've added it to the app, you can log on and see the usage history that has all the details about the temperature settings and everything else about how you're operating your house when it comes on, what's coming on, if it's auxiliary heat. No! If it's auxiliary heat, if it's the furnace, if it's the AC, it tells you all of that. It tells you humidity, it tells you outside temperatures. One thing I will say is that when we were experiencing the intermittent power going on and off, I did not have access to any of the thermostat information online. So what Ecobee does is when your thermostat shuts off, they also shut off your access to that particular thermostat's information online. One improvement to their system could be that they upgrade the online data so that it's still accessible by computer or other device, even when the thermostat loses power. And they just send a warning to the owner that the thermostat has lost power or disconnected. So the owner can then go on and log into their system and see exactly when that happened. Sometimes that could happen because of a power surge or some other event. But in our case, it was the Ecobee was drawing so much power through the transformer, the low voltage transformer, that eventually it caused it to fail. So we had to replace them. And Ecobee doesn't tell their customers that this is a possible problem, but it does draw a lot more power from the transformer than it would without the thermostat. So it's a common problem. I would bet that it's fairly widespread. I saw a number of people asking the same type of questions online about the intermittent power. But we found that the issue was the transformers, because just replacing the transformers solved the problem. Usually, they'll tell you to check wires, loose wires, if you have it set up properly, if the heat pump is wired properly, or if there's some type of wiring issue. After repeatedly checking all the wire switches, door switches on the units, we found that the problem was the low voltage transformer. So if you have internet and power issues on your Ecobee, change your low voltage transformer. Usually you can get a new one, match the one you had, and you should solve that problem. If you match the one you have or the manufacturer's suggested replacement, it should work fine. Just be careful in this process. The air handlers that are direct wired for 220 or 240, those transformers have an inlet power of 240. So you need to make sure that all the power is off, so you don't hurt yourself when you're replacing a transformer or even looking at the transformer. The typical furnace has inlet power of 110, so in that case you still want to turn off the power, but it's a little more safe to work on than the 240 power. And there's different type of low voltage transformer that's required for those units. Just make sure you have what the manufacturer is telling you to use. If it's a replacement, many times the transformer is a replacement to the transformer the model number may have changed, but the manufacturer will have a different model number that is suggested for your particular air handler or furnace. And you want to make sure that you have the right one. Sometimes not the right one will work if all the specifications are correct. However, it's not recommended. You should use what the manufacturer recommends. So hopefully this helps you with your Ecobee thermostat. Again, the data that they provide on their online site, that was really originally the deciding factor between why I liked the Ecobee better than the Nest thermostat. I don't know if Nest has upgraded their service to provide that. It's definitely a benefit of the Ecobee, and there's lots of data available. So I recommend this thermostat. Just beware that it's not without its issues. Please, if you like this video, press like below, and if you have any comments or anything to add, please make a comment below. Thank you, and have a great day.